Alright, so welcome back. We're going to be talking some more about history stuff. I just started my Colonial American class for my master's. We're just going to be talking a little bit about what I've been reading about, learning the last week and a half-ish. So, one of the first things that they had us do was talk about Providentialism. They had us read this article by Mark Sidwell, Providentialism and the Teaching of History. And the university I'm doing it through is Baptist, very Calvinist leaning. So there's some fundamental disagreements between their accepted proposed doctrine and what I believe as a Nazarene. And the main thing, in terms of providentialism in history, is the difference in the nature that and manner in which we interpret God acting in history. So, as part of Calvinism, the main conflict, I would say, is the interpretation and availability of free will for humans. Providentialism, at least from a Calvinist perspective, is that all of the actions by men are basically dictated by God. And the problem with that is that it takes away our ability to choose and to enter into this loving relationship with God. And in the statement it had us that we had to respond to for the assignment, it presented it as almost a modern Gnosticism, whereas Gnosticism is this first century Christian heresy where there was some Christians that were given secret knowledge from God, from Jesus, and they created their secret churches, and you had to join their church to get that secret knowledge, where basically now every modern day church, there is no secret knowledge. If you go and ask, they'll tell you what they think. So they kind of were explaining that Christians have a secret knowledge, secret insight given to us by God. So that's why we were better historians than other people, which is a lot of crap. God can use us as historians, but it does not automatically make us a better historian. One of the other things they had us read was a series of, well, two articles by Pauline Maier, talking about disjunctions in early American history. That's the title of it. And she saw three gaps in scholarship, and the reason they wanted us to read this so that we could look at those gaps and see how our research, our writings would play into that. And so these three gaps were different gap between colonial and revolutionary history. So they were seen as being two separate things. There weren't a lot of histories that were spanning both eras. Differences in the interest of scholars and the reading public. So the difference between what someone at a historical research institution would want to write and what just some person buying a book at Barnes & Noble or whatever, wherever would want to read. And then the difference between what scholars write and what schools require to be taught. So, for example, as a teacher, there's a history teacher, there's a set of curriculum I have to go through, and if I don't go through that, then students will be like hurt through standardized testing and stuff. So I have to appeal to that school requirements rather than what is necessarily like historical practice. And then for my final paper for this class, I I'm going to be researching into Cotton Mather. And what he's most known for is his work as being like the judge over the Salem witch trials. And while that's fascinating, there's been quite a lot of research into that area already. So I'm going to be looking at Cotton Mather, who was a very influential person. He was a Puritan theologian. And I'm going to be looking at him as a lens, well, either this or something else, which I'll explain in a second, but as a lens through which to view like the inconsistencies of he owned a slave but fought for like the rights of slaves and like that they need to be Christianized, and like that slavery was a good thing but fought very, very stringently for the proper treatment of slaves. So it's either going to be about that or comparing like Puritan justification for slavery as opposed to like Virginia, where the first slaves came to North America. So last thing here, we're reading, our required reading is American Colonies by Alan Taylor. And so just something I learned about Bartolome de las Casas. He was a Dominican friar in Spanish America, and just after hearing a sermon in which the pastor or Dominican friar said, referring to Native American, the treatment of Native Americans, "Are these Indians not men? Do they not have rational souls? Are you not obliged to love them as you love yourselves?" The sermon did profoundly touch one encomiendero in the congregation, Bartolome de las Casas, who renounced his encomienda, entered the Dominican order, and became the most eloquent and vociferous critic of the American conquest. So, it is my hope and prayer that when you guys, like go to church, when we are when we're listening and hearing God speaking to us, that we will have a sensitive heart like Bartolome had, and that we'll be able to follow as well. I hope you'll be here next week when I talk about a book review of American Slavery and American Freedom by Edmund Morgan. Yeah, that'll be out next week.